with the flexibility to set its own interest rates and its loan products. Madam Deputy Speaker, any person who's in the business, the Honourable Member for St. Peter, who's an accountant, anybody who's in the business, Madam Deputy Speaker, knows very well that if you are managing an asset like this, you want to have that level of flexibility. But the market isn't always the same, Madam Deputy Speaker. And so this bill allows us to do that. It widens the customer base by allowing it to lend to parents and guardians of students, as well as providing loans for educational expenses such as laptops, associated equipment, and so on, Madam Deputy Speaker. So the bill makes a lot of sense. The bill makes a lot of sense, but were we to subject ourselves to the deliberate intent of the opposition leader, you would think that we came in here to cast some injustice on ordinary people. And in fact, Madam Deputy Speaker, most of what was said is this, the usual innuendo and insinuations, Madam Deputy Speaker, but very little contact with the actual bill. And so, Madam Deputy Speaker, I believe that this bill supports Barbadians in a way that a good government would want to support Barbadians, Madam Deputy Speaker. I had, the good fortune of being a lecturer at the university. I was a part-time lecturer at the university for over 10 years. I taught social policy, social theory. The Honourable Member for St. Michael, South Central. That's it. Also, Madam Deputy Speaker, having had a similar experience. I taught social policy, social theory, research methods. I taught a number of things, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I was very fortunate because I knew that, again, if I weren't allowed to have a student loan, I probably could not be there. But there are some people who are now hoping to go to higher office in this country, asking to be considered to be members of this parliament, who also had the good fortune now, and it is really a fortune, a good fortune, to teach people's children. And instead of doing what they're supposed to do and teach people's children, Madam Deputy Speaker, they spend all kinds of time doing all kinds of things. But if you cannot do the job that you have, on what basis are you applying for this job that you want? Madam Deputy Speaker, let us talk about education. Because teaching the children at any level, primary school, secondary school, or the tertiary level, Madam Deputy Speaker, is important. It is important work, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I want to give, because we spoke about the 11 plus. Just a few weeks ago, last week maybe, or 2 weeks ago, when I was at my primary school at Bay Primary, I was asking the students to talk to me about education, how they feel about the 11 plus. And there were a number of views. And the good thing about this government, because on the one hand, we are accused of not consulting. But whenever we bring something to the public, and we consult with the public, and we take time to refresh, maybe take fresh guard, you're accused of not making a decision. We have to decide, Madam Deputy Speaker, what it is, because for me, the process of consultation is important. And all we have here is a process of consultation. But I asked one of the students, as I asked all the students, tell me what you think about this exam, because are you afraid, was my question, are you nervous? And one student said to me, I am so nervous. And I said, I understand that because you could get nervous at 11 plus. And this young lady said to me, I am nervous because I have one shot at this. This 11 plus for me is one shot, and I feel that I should have more than one chance to get it right, Madam Deputy Speaker. Even children understand that this is a conversation that we need to have. Even children understand that it is a conversation that we need to have. And we're taking multiple views. There were many views expressed in that classroom. There was never one faction in a room. We listen to the views of the public, and that is what we're doing. Time and time again, go back, hear the views of the public. There's nothing wrong with listening to the public and changing your opinion. There's nothing wrong with listening to the public and making amendments, Madam Deputy Speaker. And in fact, I must also say that I know when the Honourable Member for St. Philip West was there were many meetings held to have consultation. And that sometimes the people who come out to have the greatest criticisms after the fact refuse to engage in the process. I saw that with most of my bills. And even though we would have had many consultations, you still take a pause and you go back. But there's no harm in that, Madam Deputy Speaker, and that is indeed what we are doing here, Madam Deputy Speaker. But I thought it funny, Madam Deputy Speaker, when the opposition leader said he would want to praise the government He wants to congratulate the government, and then he almost choked. And not to know he has not said what he's going to congratulate the government on, because the words could not come out of his mouth. So intent on trying to bring this government into disrepute. But even the truth betrayed him, because he said, I want to congratulate the government, and then he could not get out the words. Could not get out the words. Madam Deputy Speaker, and I say to you without fear at all that there's much to congratulate the government on, Madam Deputy Speaker. We haven't gotten it right in all cases. We were not seeking to be perfect, but of course we were seeking to bring progress to ordinary men and women in this country, Madam Deputy Speaker, and we have done so. Madam Deputy Speaker, the last thing that I want to speak on very quickly is in relation to the comment made twice about us refusing to address ordinary people, or about us refusing to come into contact with people who are suffering, Madam Deputy Speaker. And if there's one thing that this government cannot be properly accused of, is failing to address the issues of people who are struggling in this country, Madam Deputy Speaker. That is the one thing that we cannot accuse this government of. Now, granted, of course, that even with the best will in the world, Madam Deputy Speaker, you're not going to be able to reach everyone. But our effort has been such, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I will go through a number of things in response, because the argument is being made that because we haven't made contact with these things, that persons not benefiting from education, that somehow the country is in peril. In fact, the phrase that was made was that the country is on the precipice of disaster. And if you were to listen to the leader of the opposition, you would think that Barbados is going to be non-existent tomorrow, that the sky is falling, that the sky is falling. Everything in this country is wrong, according to the leader of the opposition, Madam Deputy Speaker. Education is wrong. You haven't done anything for persons with disabilities. You haven't done anything for the children. Over and over again. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, let me remind the Parliament. And I remember, Madam Deputy Speaker, in terms of disabilities, the number of meetings with the Ministry of Education to be able to make education available on equal footing to persons with disabilities, Madam Deputy Speaker. And the truth is that no government prior to this government, and even this government, Madam Deputy Speaker, because there's still work to do, and there are some matters on which we must never be political. When it comes to children with disabilities, we must never be political, Madam Deputy Speaker. And that we must be honest in saying that generations of different manifestations of this Parliament, Madam Deputy Speaker, hadn't incorporated persons with disabilities in education the way they should have. But that we are seeing efforts now being made by the Ministry of Education to right that wrong. We saw in this Parliament a policy brought to address persons with disabilities on a number of issues, including education. We immediately followed that up with a bill, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill, that addressed a number of issues in education for persons with disabilities, Madam Deputy Speaker. We have done significant work, Madam Deputy Speaker. Also in relation to welfare, because the point was made, again, that instead of doing this, put the money into welfare, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I say in this Parliament, I said it during the estimates, and I'm saying it again, Madam Deputy Speaker, the most funding, in some cases over 190%, that has ever gone to persons on the welfare roll, Madam Deputy Speaker, in persons who are receiving welfare support is no. We have increased it by 195% in some instances, Madam Deputy Speaker. So that when you look at the budget for the ministry, as opposed to the budget previously, we are putting the most financing behind helping the poor. And then we came with the One Family Program, of which education is a significant pillar. And the One Family Program addresses the needs of the 1,000 most vulnerable families in Barbados, Madam Deputy Speaker. So that what we are saying is that all over, no matter how you look at it, we are putting in place strategies to be able to assist with education. Madam Deputy Speaker, I will not speak on crime, but I will tell you this. I grew up in the Pine. I grew up in the Pine, and I'm talking now about in the 80s, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I know back then what it was to be able to see things that children should not see. I know what it is, Madam Deputy Speaker, to sit with my friends and to count the number of persons that I know as a boy that got killed, Madam Deputy Speaker. one after one. The first being permit me to say Barry Jack. Madam Deputy Speaker, we played as boys. The police had shot him, but we played as boys, and many others after that. I do not take this job, Madam Deputy Speaker, or what we must do as a political thing. Because in the 1980s, when I was too young to understand, my friends were dying, Madam Deputy Speaker. And that we have as a society to tackle this issue in its totality. We have to look at education, we have to look at poverty, we have to look at employment, we have to look at community activities, we have to tackle it in its totality. But to constantly make reference to it as if it is solely a political thing is dangerous, it is mischievous, and it is misleading, Madam Deputy Speaker. I care too much for the people I grew up around, the people that I represent in St. Michael South, in Paddock, in Dawes Road, and Bayland, and Bridenstone, and other places, to come here and make it a political issue. We have to be able to build back this country, education being part of it, community engagement being part of it, Madam Deputy Speaker. So fundamentally, all of us must take guard, and all of us must play a role in addressing this problem. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I really just want to get up to support the bill. I have listened, Madam Deputy Speaker, time and time again as the opposition leader is a tail that wags too long. I am going to wrap up, and an hour later, still wrapping up, saying nothing. An hour in the beginning, saying nothing. Madam Deputy Speaker, the debates that we have in this Parliament are too important. This bill is too important. The possibilities of children born into circumstances like myself, like most of us in this place, Madam Deputy Speaker, the possibility for them to be able to have wider access to loans, to be able to repay those loans a little bit longer so that the loans don't hinder them in life, Madam Deputy Speaker. These are important things, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is only a man who is at war with himself who would not recognize that these are virtuous things in this bill, Madam Deputy Speaker, and that all of us in this place will benefit one way or the other because our constituents will benefit, our families will benefit, Madam Deputy Speaker. So again, I want to close as I began by commending the member for St. James South for bringing this piece of legislation to the Parliament. I could not close, in all honesty, without thanking the member for St. Philip West, who I know piloted a lot of this work, who would have done a lot of this work to get us here, who as Minister of Education, Madam Deputy Speaker, took a lot of licks from the public, but was doing a very, very good job in terms of transforming Barbados. I want to thank her, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I want to submit this bill to the people of Barbados. I ask them to go and take a look at it. And if they do not understand the benefits of it, to have a conversation with almost any of us, Madam Deputy Speaker. Any of us on this side, Madam Deputy Speaker, because this bill will make a difference to ordinary people. And on those few words, Madam Deputy Speaker, I support the bill, and I commend you for your time. I thank you for your time.
Member for St. James.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm reminded of these words that always guide or should guide how we speak when we speak. In Proverbs 10:19 it says, when there are many words, transgression is unavoidable. But he who restrains his lips is wise. And the Honourable Member for Christchurch South is known for his continuous flow of rhetoric, the soporific orations and cliches. He is known for hours and hours of repetition that does not connect in any way with the matter at hand. And we've given him a lot of latitude because we recognize that he is the only person here. But it comes to a level where by allowing him to run on that long, long chain, we have come to discover that there's a lot of transgression in his many words. He treated us to the cliches of the scourge of crime, the precipice of destruction. And when he's lost for words, pretty talk, pretty talk, pretty talk. education descending into chaos, education being at the pivotal revolutionary moment. These are the things that we are treated to, but it is a lot of fury delivering and offering nothing. Now, as persons indicated, education is extremely important, and getting improved results in our students is a center really of our concern. But I will tell you that today, the performance of the leader of the opposition gave me great cause for alarm and says that as a government, we do need to pay greater attention to assessing our children to understand when there are learning deficits, when there are difficulties with their capacity to learn. Because obviously, not having these things in place for years past, at some point in time, children will fall through that crack. The unfortunate thing, Madam Deputy Speaker, is that one of them may end up as your leader of opposition one day. So there were three things that really alarmed me. Now, I'll explain why. We recognize that more and more the children do have challenges. And we would have put back in place under the Honourable Member for St. Philip West, we started testing for sight, testing for hearing, testing for speech, because we recognize that it is important to be able to catch any of those issues early, because one of the things that we seek to do is to develop a personal development plan for that child so the child's teachers can give appropriate remedial support and appropriate approaches in instruction that helps that child to succeed. I would like to have the Honourable Member for Christchurch South to be able to avail himself of such a plan. And I will tell you why. As I listened to him, I realized that this was really a first reading speech for him, because he was actually now reading the legislation for the first time. We've come to learn that when he wants to go through legislation line by line, it's because he's not read it, he's not prepared, and he has to run out of the chamber to take a phone call to hear what to say in relation to that piece of legislation. Then he tends to experience memory lapses, but I can recommend to him there are certain vitamins that you can take that can help to improve your memory, because when he spoke to the chamber, he obviously didn't catch it as it was said that the loan limit was 20,000 and it actually rose then to 125,000. So I'm sure that he will be relieved to know that, so he can recognize that it has been properly addressed. But what really puzzled me was his reference to something about the release of trillions of dollars of investment in Barbados when we were discussing, I believe it was the Business Barbados bill. He did not quite adequately remember the bill. But it speaks to English comprehension. In English comprehension, what a teacher seeks to do really is to help the child understand the sense of the text and to be able to answer accurately and with intelligence questions on that text. Now, obviously, that may have been a weakness for the Honourable Member for Christchurch South, because in that particular presentation on Business Barbados, the comment was never that Barbados was going to get trillions of dollars of investment, but rather the statement said that there are trillions of dollars of investment around the world, around the globe. And what Barbados was seeking to do, Barbados was seeking to create a business environment in which we could try to attract quality investment to Barbados, but never was a statement made or promised that we would bring trillions of dollars of investment. The other thing that was of great concern to me was, and I found this particularly offensive, and I'll tell you why. First of all, he talked about we should join together. I was pleased at first to hear him say that we were to join together as government and opposition. We should join minds and hearts so that we can look to address the issues in school because education was important. Now, when I heard that, the joining together, I say, he's understanding that we need to work together. But then, when I heard that it was to address issues affecting education, I was wondering which matrix revolution he was living in. I'll explain why. One of the most important things, and he spent some time on it, the 11+ exam, though it's not part of this debate. And he raised a number of questions on the 11+ and wanted to know where we were as a government with it. It was as if he had forgotten that a few short weeks ago, he and his team on education were invited by the Prime Minister of this country to meet with education officials that we could present to them some of the options that we were looking at in terms of how we were going to deal with 11+. You would not believe, listening today, Madam Deputy Speaker, that he was invited to do so. And it was to be a lunchtime, so it would not crowd into anybody's time if you had alternative duties that you had to go to. They were invited to join us for lunch downstairs in the parliamentary dining room. The team went down, we went in and sat, and then we discovered that they were sitting at the far end of the dining room. So we thought that they did not understand what was the location for the lunch, where the presentation would take place. On questioning and going to them and saying, oh, the luncheon is over here, we want to invite you to come in because everybody's here, the Chief Education Officer, to present on the 11+ options and to get your input and to collaborate. The message was sent back that they cannot attend the meeting. Meanwhile, sitting and having lunch. I found that absolutely offensive, but it was also indicative that in truth and in fact, the concern for the children of Barbados and their well-being is spurious. It is only for political advantage. And that is a shame, ma'am. Because this country must never bring to office people who have at the bottom of their hearts no genuine concern in the children of Barbados. And if I was misrepresenting him or misunderstanding on what basis they refused to come and have not set up another meeting either, it was not until just a couple weeks ago, just a few days ago, when our children's performance in the 11+ was put at risk because of actions taken by others. The gentleman for Christchurch South raised not his voice in defense of these same children, but could speak ad nauseum about what he considered to be the failings of the Barbados Labour Party when it comes to education. I found that offensive because at the bottom, and I'm realizing this now, at the bottom of all the talk and all of the ballerina positions that he takes, all the drama that he treats this chamber to, there is no serious or deep concern for the children of this country. But I have to give him kudos for one thing that he finally explained to me. He's often fond of coming in this chamber and behaving like a schoolmaster and a professor who is about to school a group of students in law, in drafting legislation, and all kinds of things. And I found that today when he was speaking, there seemed to be, I don't know, you have to call it a curious mental self-deception. Now, he was raising a concern about the speed at which we want to reduce arrears from 11% to 5% and how we would hurt all kinds of people to be able to get there. And I want to reassure him that over the years, the Student Revolving Loan Fund has always taken an extremely humane approach in dealing with arrears. That's one of the reasons why they had the outstanding arrears for so long. I myself have had to listen to persons who were in problems with the fund, and they wanted to know, well, what can I do, what could be done, and so on. And always, the management team has always said, we seek to sit with people and make reasonable arrangements based on their circumstances. And they've always done that. They've always done that. They're responsive, and I really want to thank the team. But I found it curious that he should raise the issue of if a person comes before the fund and misrepresents his circumstances in order to get more money than they're entitled to ensure that their child is able to get an education. His question was, should you criminalize that person? Now, I can sympathize with every parent who is challenged to find the funds to be able to make sure their child gets an education. I want to reassure him that the Student Revolving Loan Fund will work with you. You may have to take it a little more slowly. You might have to make different types of arrangements. But our goal is to ensure that every person who wants to get that additional tertiary education, that we find a way that we can enable them so to do. But when he made the comment about criminalizing a person who lies to get resources that, on the face of it, they're not entitled to, it had a curious ring to me, Madam Deputy Speaker. It reminded me of another member of his party who, for some reason, to this day, cannot understand why taking money from an institution and putting it on your personal account while you are in charge of a ministry that has responsibility for a unit under you that has the ability to give a contract to that same company. I've always found the explanation curious. It's not only that they sought to put to the public that there was a dire need and therefore it was justified to yield to the temptation. That was the commonality with this example that he gave. But the person also went on to say, but this is not a crime in Barbados, and tried to persuade people overseas that in Barbados, this type of behavior is not a crime, is normal and fully acceptable. No, I thought they were just making excuses at a personal level. What I did not understand, Madam Deputy Speaker, that this seems to be a philosophy and an underlying value that may be running through the Democratic Labour Party. Because to have the leader utter those words sent chills through me. I believe in working with people if they have a difficulty. And one of the things that we need to have in our country are more counselors that can help people work out a personal plan to to be able to get to the destination when they want to get to a destination. We have to encourage people that if you live in Christchurch and you're going to St. Michael, your journey is not going to be the same as the person living in St. Lucie trying to get to St. Michael. There may be more challenges. It might take longer to get from St. Lucie to St. Michael, but you can get there once you develop a plan that is based on your reality. And every single person in Barbados, we can sit down and work out something, a timing that allows you to eventually get there without you having to go to an institution and perjure your soul and put yourself in trouble. And I want to encourage people, let us hold to the high road and not go down the road that has been put before us by the leader of the opposition. Madam Deputy Speaker, I am very pleased with this bill. I thank the Honourable Member for St. Michael South for his support of the bill, because we know that the further changes that have been made in this bill to add to what was gone before is going to create greater opportunity, Madam Speaker, for more resources to be acquired, that we can help more people as we seek to stimulate Barbadians to get involved in continuous professional learning. We know, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the new products that they're putting on the road are responsive to the needs of Barbadians, especially those who are challenged financially, by helping them with back to school. For people who need to do continuous professional education, that they're going to be able to have access to professional and training qualification, certification opportunities. These are some of the things that this bill has promised to do. And we believe that once this bill is passed, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the Student Revolving Loan Fund personnel will work as diligently in the future as they have done in the past to continue to build an organization that has close to $50 million in assets and investments and is able to turn over $7 million annually, and as a result not have to use government funds, but is able to take care of its business while at the same time take care of the dreams of Barbadians. And I want to salute them. I want to encourage them. I want to encourage all the past ministers of education who have been associated with helping this unit to come to where it is. Indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are greatly grateful, and we thank you for giving us your attention. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I beg that you do now leave the chair. No, not yet. Second time? Okay. I beg to move that the bill be read a second time.
Beg second that.
Honourable members, the question is that this bill be now read the second time. All honourable members in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg that you do now leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
Beg second that.
Question is that I don't do chair, or the
And the House
House resolve itself in committee for further consideration. All honourable members in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it.
This Honourable House is now in committee.
Mr. Chairman, permission to call in parts, yes, or in clauses for sure. Clauses 1 to 9. Clauses 1 to 9. Clauses 1 to 9.
Right. I beg to move that clauses 1 to 9 stand part.
May I second that?
The question is that clauses 1 to 9 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clauses 10 to 15.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clauses 10 to 15 stand part.
May I second that?
Question is that clauses 10 to 15 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clauses 16 to 20.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clauses 16 to 20 stand part.
May I second that?
The question is that clauses 16 to 20 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clauses 21 to 25.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clauses 21 to 25 stand part.
May I second that?
The question is that clauses 21 to 25 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clauses 26 to 33.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clauses 26 to 33 stand part.
May I second that?
The question is that clauses 26 to 33 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Schedule.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that the schedule be the schedule to the bill.
May I second that?
The question is that the schedule be the schedule to the bill. All honourable members in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that you do now report to Her Honour, the Deputy Speaker, the passing of one bill in committee.
May I second that?
The question is that I do now report to Her Honour, the Deputy Speaker, the passing of one bill in committee. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no.
There are actually two schedules. The second schedule. First schedule.
Second schedule.
You just don't have it listed in it.
Second. Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that the second schedule be the second schedule to the bill.
May I second that?
The question is that the second schedule be the second schedule to the bill. All honourable members in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that you do now report to Her Honour, the Deputy Speaker, the passing of one bill in committee.
May I second that?
The question is that I do now report to Her Honour, the Speaker, the passing of one bill, the Deputy Speaker, the passing of one bill in committee. All honourable members in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Honourable members, the chairman of committees has reported to me the passing of one bill in committee.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be now read a third time.
I beg second that.
The question is that
This bill be read a third.
this bill be now read a third time. All honourable members in favour, please say
Aye.
aye. Those against, please say no.
Madam
You think the ayes have it?
Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be now passed and cited as the Student Revolving Loan Act 2024.
Beg second.
The question is that this bill be now passed and be so cited. All honourable members in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. You think the ayes have it? This bill is now passed.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but not yet though. I want to do the other order. Order number 13, ma'am. In the name of the Honourable Leader of the House, to move the passing of a resolution that the Honourable the House of Assembly concur in the amendment made by the Honourable the Senate to the Seaport Industry Management and Operations Bill 2025.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that the resolution do not pass.
Honourable members in favour, please say aye.
Question.
Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it.
Revert to announcements by your Honour.
Honourable members, we now revert to other business. I have receipt of correspondence from the Ombudsman, and I would wish to read you the information. It is my pleasure to submit to you the report of the activities of the Office of the Ombudsman for the period January the 1st, 2020 to December the 31st, 2022, along with that of 2023. The submission is made in keeping with sections 13(6) of the Ombudsman Act, Cap 8A of the laws of Barbados, which states that a general report of the functions of the Ombudsman shall be prepared and submitted for laying before each House of Parliament. And the report indicates reports for the activities of the Office of the Ombudsman for that period, January the 1st, 2020 to December the 31st, 2022, and for that as of 2023.
Revert to government business.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I therefore beg to move the adjournment of the House until the 27th of May at 10 a.m.
27.
The question is that this chamber now be adjourned until the 27th of March, the 27th of May, excuse me, the 27th of May, 2025 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All honourable members, please say aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it. This honourable chamber is now adjourned until the date expressed earlier.